Hello everyone. Today I was having a general discussion with one of my colleagues. We were discussing about finance, and I was posed upon a question that how does Islamic finance work? Like, what is this concept of interest being prohibited in Islamic finance? And I could sense lack of awareness, and I've also seen throughout the time that I've been studying about finance that people generally are not aware about Islamic finance. So I thought probably I'll make a short and crisp video to make people aware of the same, because any kind of knowledge helps in whatsoever manner possible. So I already have a list of pointers so that we can save on our time and understand the maximum possible things in a very less amount of time. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to know about Islamic finance is, rather the Islamic banking, is that it is also called non-interest banking. All of us know that interest is prohibited in Islam. The word interest is called riba in Islam, and everybody knows that it is prohibited in Islamic Sharia law. Now, I'll get back to why it is prohibited and what is the reason behind it being prohibited, because by finance, the first word that comes into the mind of people is interest. So people generally get confused, like finance without interest like sounds very illogical. So I'll just try to clear that doubt. Next, the concept of Sharia law, which I already discussed. There is a Sharia law on the basis of which the Islamic constitution is based. So, following the principles of the Sharia law, this Islamic banking and Islamic finance principles are coming into the picture. So, we basically, the Islamic law the Sharia law is followed, keeping in mind, it is kept in mind while you are acting upon the principles of Islamic finance. Next, the basic thing that is followed in Islam is that the money is considered to have no intrinsic value. By that, what I mean is that you cannot profit out of money, or some basically that is what we are doing when interest is involved, right? Like let's say, for example, if you're investing and you're getting money in return of it, it is nothing but it is considered a concept of profiting out of the money that you have. So that concept is prohibited in Islam, and that is why we say, and also that is what I exactly mean by money having no intrinsic value. So this is one of the foremost reasons why interest is prohibited in Islam. Now, Islamic finance, the principles have all been emergent throughout the phase that we are having since the past 15 or 20 years, especially after the 2008 financial crisis, which a lot of people who follow finance and the knowledge that revolves around the financial world would agree to. So Islamic finance products, are being adhered to and taken into the portfolios of people who were not taking it earlier. So in that way, there was a first Islamic bank that was set up in Malaysia. But this was not after 2008. It was quite before that. The reason behind setting up of this Islamic bank in Malaysia was that the Hajj pilgrimage that Muslims go for, basically people, it is considered to be really pious and very holy to go for a Hajj pilgrimage at least once in our lives. It is considered to be kind of mandatory, like if you can afford it you should go for it. So people, and obviously interest is not prohibited in interest is prohibited in Islam, so people were looking for loans that are interest free. So that this demand for interest free loans made this need for a bank set up, and that is why Malaysia was the first country in which a proper first Islamic bank was set up, and that is how the concept of Islamic finance has been coming over the period of setting up of this first Islamic bank. Now, another concept of Islamic finance is that you cannot profit from the hard work of others. Let's say, for example, you have a portfolio manager, and that portfolio manager basically takes your money and invests it somewhere, and he gives you interest that you earn on your investments. So that is a hard work that that person is doing. And I mean, this is a very colloquial example, but I'm just trying to make you understand what this thing exactly means. So that is why also you're investing in companies. They are working hard in it, and they are doing the hard work, and you are just investing in the shares of that company and earning the money out of it. So this is, I mean, I'm not here to say if this is right or wrong, if this is logical or illogical. I'm just here to convey what is the principles that Islamic finance follows, so that people are aware that this is what is happening in this thing. So that is the reason that this is one of the principles, that you cannot profit from the hard work of others. That is why this interest element thing is prohibited. It is also called riba, as I earlier mentioned. Now, as per the Sharia law that I mentioned, there are few areas in which you can, put your money into, or let's say, for example, you can invest. Basically, what these banks do is that the banks that follow Islamic finance, they have accounts open, but they do not pay you interest on it. What they do is that they take money from the people, the investors, and they invest in projects that are permitted by the Sharia law. And in return, they distribute the profits that they earn out of that investment to them. Now, you may argue that this is just like interest only. Like, as you mentioned, that you cannot profit from hard work of others. So it is like a similar concept in par with that. But this is something, now, see, now there are disguised things that we do. I mean, for example, let's say we want to, replicate a position in our portfolio. So we use derivatives. So this is also a kind of disguise, because basically what I want to portray is that without interest, finances doesn't make sense. I completely agree with it. So there should be some element, in an indirect way involved into any finance field, be it Islamic finance, be it the conventional finance. So this is a way in which you can, profit. So they have just given it the name of profit. So Islamic banks, they only the projects that are permitted by Sharia law, they invest in that, and the profit earned on it, they return it to the deposit holders or the investors. So this is how the Islamic banks function, by not giving interest and sharing the profits. Now, what are the things that are prohibited by the Sharia law? Very easy to understand. Be it anything related to alcohol, be it anything related to drugs, be it anything related to high speculation. By speculation, I mean gambling. Like, let's say, for example, all of us, we know, if we speculate on a share, what we do is we buy the buy the share on the same day and sell it on the same day. If we are betting on something that this thing will today, there's a big news on this share, so this will rise, and therefore I will buy it today and sell it after the news is announced when the share price is. So I'm speculating on it. So this is considered risky in Islam, and that is why it is prohibited by the Sharia law, and it is also called mesir. Speculation is referred to as mesir. And another thing, high risky things are prohibited in Islam. Let's say, for example, derivative contracts are highly risky. Futures, options, call option, put option, all these are risky. You're just putting a bet on something, on your opinion, and this is considered highly risky, and this is called as gharar. So I think I'm clear with mesir and gharar. Again, as I mentioned, the Sharia compliant projects, there are agents of in the form of banks who take money from the deposit holders or whatever the investors, and they return a profit out of it. And that is how this Islamic finance works. The principle of Islamic banking works. Now, all this started to emerge so much that already all of us are aware of the Dow Jones main index that is there in the US. So now there is a separate index that was formed in 1999 called the Dow Jones Islamic Index, specifically for which was having the constituents in the form of those projects that are Sharia compliant. So this index was specifically related to that, because Muslim population is one of the foremost population anywhere globally. So they have to bring into things that act as a benchmark for all of these things. So that is how the Dow Jones Islamic Index came into the picture, and all these just catalyzed the process of this Islamic finance that has been going on throughout these period. Next, the first country was UK. The first non-Islamic country to propagate the principles of Islamic finance was UK, and they set up the Islamic Bank of Britain to carry out these Islamic finance activities, because they wanted the Muslim and the Islamic people of their country to be part of this process of getting involved into banking activities, transactions, and which is nothing but helps in the economy development. Next, there is a concept of sukuk, which are nothing but Islamic bonds. Bonds, everybody knows, a company raises money in the form of when they require to do something. Let's say, like, for example, they need to repay a loan, or they need to invest in a new project. They raise money from the people, the public as a whole, and therefore they issue bonds on which they pay interest. But definitely, since this is an Islamic instrument, so therefore there will be no interest element, but there is this concept of, it is just like those that banks propagate into. They take money from the investors, and then they give a share of profit. So this is what sukuk is all about. And it was first set up in UK only, as UK was the first non-Islamic country to adhere to these Islamic principles. So sukuk is nothing but Islamic bonds. They don't have interest, they have a share of profit element that is distributed. Yeah, it is disguised as interest. I know a lot of you are having that in mind. So it is interest in disguise. But yeah, I mean, whatever it is. Okay. Next, there was a the Islamic finance house set up in US called the Ladiba. Again, US also came into the picture. They also realized that this is something which is important and needs to be recognized, and that is how they set up this full Islamic finance house called Ladiba, and it also invests in only the Sharia compliant projects. Now, coming to the Indian scenario. Now we all know our former RBI governor Raghuram Rajan, and he had issued a report in which they also felt the need that India should also adhere to these principles of Islamic finance, so that the Muslim people, the Islamic people who are not currently involved in any banking transaction only because they are very pious and they do not want to get into riba and all that because it is prohibited, they also have this thing that this is permitted, so let us just get involved into this. And all this just helps in the GDP growth and whatever way you want to put it, whatever economic incentive you want to put it as, but it all helps in the development. So this was also realized because Muslim population is also one of the foremost population of India as a whole. So Raghuram Rajan, he was a very learned man. He still is a very learned man. I'm sorry to use in the past tense, but yeah, this is something which was raised by him first. Now, how will India benefit out of all of this thing? What his point was? His point was that the West Asian countries, mainly like UAE, and then there is Saudi Arabia, the money will flow into Indian stock markets. Only stock markets in the sense, if it is permitted in India, the Banking Regulation Act 1949 has to be amended for it. If it gets amended, there will be complete companies who will be Sharia compliant, and then they will be listed in the share market, and then these Muslim population would be investing into it. And as a result, people who are not part of the stock market or anything as a whole for now doing investments, they will also get involved into these Sharia compliant projects, and this will just help in our nation building process. So this was raised over there. Now, there are also few Islamic products which I do not want to delve into a lot because the video will just get elongated. Probably I can record a separate video on it, but there are three main kinds of Islamic instruments that are used. One is Mudaraba. Mudaraba is nothing but it's just a kind of partnership agreement between two or more partners, in which few partners, let's just assume an example of two partners. One partner would be providing the labor, he would be working into it, and the other partner would just give capital, and he would not be working, just like a sleeping partner, like we have in the Partnership Act, the concept. So Mudaraba is nothing but that, to be very crisp, but it has a lot to it, but I'm not delving into it. Next is Musharaka. Musharaka is nothing but a kind of a joint venture. It is similar to Mudaraba, but it is in the form of joint venture, not a partnership. Ijara is nothing but leasing. We all know what the concept of leasing is. So to be very concise, I mean, this is the main crux a person, a layman needs to understand of Islamic finance and why it is called the non-interest banking. What is this concept of, riba being prohibited and all that. So I hope this video is helpful and it is slight just of, knowledgeable for any of you who's watching it. And I really hope that, people keep themselves updated about the world of finance, because finance is future. Thank you very much for sticking till the end of the video. Bye-bye.